Hey there, this is AB again from PyNet Labs, and I welcome you all to this demo video of CCNP Enterprise, in which we are going to talk about two of our upcoming training modules, which is going to be a combination course based on CCNP Enterprise. So the first course that we're going to deliver in this training is going to be about CCNP Enterprise Core, and then the next module that we will be covering in this training is going to be based on the CCNP Enterprise in Advanced Routing and Services. But before going into the content of what we are going to cover in that particular training, I'd like to give you a brief about how Cisco's newly announced certifications are categorized. So, as most of you might be aware about, that Cisco came up with the completely new line of certifications that they announced on February 24, 2020. Right? On this day, Cisco came up with the biggest change in their line of certifications in the history of around 25 years that they have ever did so big changes in their certifications. And if we talk about the old type of certification or the old line of certification that Cisco used to have, then we usually had 3 levels of certification. The first level was CCNA, which was Cisco Certified Network Associate. The second level was CCNP, which was Cisco Certified Network Professionals. And the third level that we have is CCIE. And almost everyone who deals in network engineering or have built their career in networking or looking forward to build their career, I wish you all the best. But you already might know that there are different tracks as well that are associated with these certifications. And if we talk about those tracks, then there are various other tracks that are available, which starts all the way that everyone knows about is routing and switching. That's the most famous track that they have, right? Routing and switching. Then you also have some other tracks, which is security, for example. Then you have data center, for example. Then you have, I would say, collaboration, for example. And you also have service provider tracks and certain others, including cloud, including cyber ops, and so on. So now, when you had these line of certification, then there were different certifications that were offered that in the early, I would say, phase of someone who would try to build their career in networking, one would especially go for doing the certification that was CCNA in routing and switching. Then after that, once you complete your CCNA routing and switching, one would look forward to do their CCNP in routing and switching, and then they could follow the same line of certification and complete or pursue their CCIE certification in routing and switching. And same type of procedure from the top-down approach would be followed in every stream of certification, but almost everyone will be doing their CCNA routing and switching and CCNP routing and switching as well, most of them. So this was kind of acting as a combination course that everyone would look forward to before jumping up in any other track. So if you would be wanting to do CCNP in security, it would be highly recommended to complete your studies of routing and switching first, because routing and switching was kind of acting as the foundation to every other specialized certification that you would do. Meaning, no matter if you're looking forward to build your career in security domain or data center domain or collaboration domain or even some other domains, the first thing that you will look forward to do is complete your routing and switching studies and then focus on the other specialized tracks that were available. Now these tracks, however, still continue to be available, but there is a small change that routing and switching is no longer called as routing and switching, and it has got a new name, and that particular name is Enterprise. So there is no certification that is called as a routing and switching certification, and everything has been switched back to enterprise networks. And also there is another change, that the very first associate certification that you used to work with, this is also no longer is associated with any of the track. So there is just normal CCNA and it doesn't go with any of the tracks that are available. You cannot do CCNA in Enterprise, you cannot do CCNA in Security, you cannot do CCNA in Data Center. So that's just plain CCNA, which has various other topics, including some of them from Enterprise network, some of them from Security, some of them from wireless networks, and some Data Center, and some automation stuff. So they have kind of collaborated everything and taken bits and pieces from all the certifications that are available or the tracks that are available, and they have created this newly launched CCNA, which focuses corely on enterprise and some bits and pieces of the other domains that I just reviewed. Then when you complete your CCNA studies, then if you would look forward to do CCNP in routing and switching before the change of this new certification, then you would probably have to go through multiple type of exams. For example, if you would look further to complete your CCNP in routing and switching, then there were 3 exams that one would need to pass. The first exam focused on route. Okay, the name of that particular module was route, which would completely focus on routing technologies. The second module that you would need to pass, or the second exam that you would need to pass, was switch, and the third exam that you would need to pass was T-shoot. And if you pass all of these, then and then only you would become CCNP in routing and switching. Otherwise, you will not become CCNP in routing and switching ever. Okay, if you do not pass these certifications. However, if you just pass, let's say, CCNP route, and you do not pass CCNP T-shoot, having route and switch as passed and not passing the troubleshooting, I mean, like failing that troubleshoot exam, or even not attempting that troubleshoot exam, will not make you CCNP routing and switching. So that was kind of a scenario if we talk about the older level of certification that we had to do. And the thing was just same. You would have different, it's not like every domain would have just 3 exams. Like security had around 4 exams that needed to be passed, and then you would become CCNP security. But now everything has changed. Cisco has changed the, I would say, game completely, that there are some different requirements and there are some different terms and conditions in order to become Cisco Certified Network Professional. So if we talk about the new line of certification that Cisco has came up with, specifically about the enterprise module, then the enterprise module, or I would say CCNP, enterprise level certifications, contain various exams. Okay, and these exams are categorized in 2 form of certifications. One, there would be, I would say, core exam that you would need to pass, and other, there would be a concentrated exam that you will need to pass. So the core exam, I would say, there is just one core exam which goes with the name of ENCOR. Okay, which is, I would say, the ENCOR itself like means that the one that we're going to talk over here, implementing Cisco Enterprise Network Core Technologies. Okay, which briefly talks about various of the routing technologies and switching technologies, and how does these like network devices are designed and implemented into network enterprise networks. We'll be talking about the content of that later, but yeah, that's what the ENCOR exam is, and the exam code for that is 350401. So you can say that the exam code for that is 350401. Okay, this is the exam that you need to pass. Then in the section of concentrated exam, there are almost, I would say, 6 modules that Cisco have introduced. And the very first module that is available there is NRC. And this NRC stands for Implementing Cisco Advanced Routing and Services, okay, which has an exam code of 300, 410. And the second module that is available there is ENSDWI, which stands for Implementing Cisco's SD-WAN Solution, which has an exam code of 300, 415. Then you have the third module, which has a code of SLD, which stands for Designing Cisco Enterprise Network, which has a code of 300,420. And then you have the fourth module, which has a code that is EN, then WLSD, which is Designing Cisco's Enterprise Wireless Networks, which has an exam code of 300,425. Okay, then the next module that you have in the group or in the section of concentrated exam is ENWLSI, which means Implementing Cisco's Enterprise Wireless Networks, which has a code of 300,430. And then the last module that you have is EN Auto, which is Automating Cisco's Enterprise Network Solutions, which has a code of 300,435. So these are, I would say, the certifications that are offered, or these are, I would say, the exams that are offered in concentration exam. Now, the term and condition to become CCNP Enterprise is you need to pass one core exam plus you need to pass one concentrated exam. Which means that you need to attempt first the core exam itself, and once you attempt this core exam and pass it, then you can attempt any of these exams, okay, be it like NRC, be it SD-WAN implementation, be it SD-WAN design, be it wireless network designs, be it SDXS or any other, even an auto or so. You can just pass any of these exams, even if you pass, like, let's say one of ENCOR and then you pass NRC. So once you pass both of these exams, then you will become CCNP Enterprise. Okay, it is not mandatory to pass all the exams that are mentioned as part of the core and as part of the concentrated. But make sure that core exam is one of the mandatory thing that needs to be passed over here. Without passing the core exam, you cannot become Cisco Certified Network Professional. And let's say that you passed the core exam, but you do not attempt any of the concentrated exam. Or there can be a combination that you attempted one of the concentrated exam, but you didn't go for the core exam. Or you went for multiple concentrated exams. Let's say you passed NRC, an auto, and SD-WAN as well. Even after passing these three exams, you will not become a CCNP Enterprise because you do not have passed the core exam or the ENCOR exam. Which means that you must pass one core exam of that particular stream and one concentrated exam of that particular. And this applies for every domain that is available now. Okay, even in security there is a core exam and some concentrated exams. In data center there is a core exam and some concentrated exams, and so it is for the other domains that you have. Now this was about how the new certifications are, and mind you, there is no prerequisite like earlier that you also need to be CCNA certified if you want to become CCNP. There is no prerequisite anymore, even for becoming CCIE. Okay, you can directly go for any level of certification without any prerequisites. So even though, however, in earlier certification, CCIE, if someone would look forward to attempt for CCIE, then for CCIE there were two forms of exams that you needed to pass. One, you would first need to complete the written exam of CCIE, and then you would need to complete and pass the lab exam of CCIE. Now there is no specific written exam that is associated for new CCIE certifications, and all the core exams of these particular streams will be considered as the written exam for the CCIE. So if you want to become CCIE Enterprise, the written exam will be considered ENCOR itself, and if you are ENCOR certified, then you can go ahead and do the lab exam of that particular CCIE certification, and you will become CCIE lab certified if you pass that exam. That's how the thing goes like. Okay, so even if you do not have CCNA certification with you, you can still go ahead and pass your professional exams and get all your certifications done. So as I mentioned, that if you do not pass the combination of these exams, which is mentioned, that one core and one concentration, and you pass any other sort of combination, let's say multiple core concentration exams or just the core exam, then there is a new badge that is given to all of these people who would pass not the combination but any, I would say, other exams, and that doesn't really satisfy the requirements for becoming CCNP. You would be awarded a tag that would be called as Cisco Certified Specialist. So that's how the thing will be. You will be called as Cisco Certified Specialist in that particular module. Like if you just go for ENCOR, you will be called as ENCOR Specialist. If you go for NRC, you will be called as NRC Specialist. And you go for any other type of exam and do not fulfill the professional certification levels or professional certification requirements, you will be called as Specialist of whatever exam that you're going to pass. So that's how the new line of certifications goes up. Now, we at PyNet Labs are coming up with a combination, I would say, training that would basically focus on the content, in which we'll be talking about the first content or the first module that we're going to focus on is going to be ENCOR, and the second module that is going to be covered in our training is going to be NRC. So the core exam and the advanced routing and services exam. This is what we are going to focus on, and it's going to be a 3 hours intensive training per day that starts from 25th of January till 26th of February. Okay, and the training will be imparted from Monday to Friday every week, okay, for the duration that is mentioned above over here. And the timings for this training will be 1:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. This is what we are coming up with, and this training is going to be exclusive for a limited amount of seats that are going to be available, and all that we're going to cover in this particular training will also be including hands-on lab. So we will be having hands-on lab included as part of our training over there, and that's how we are going to come up with this exclusive fast-track CCNP Enterprise training, okay, by PyNet Labs. And if we talk about the content, then we are going to follow the exact same content that is offered by Cisco's official content requirements, in which if we talk about the module that focuses specifically on Cisco's, I would say, ENCOR certification, then ENCOR certification has different requirements, where ENCOR, there are different modules that are focused in ENCOR. The first module that is there is architecture. Talk about what are the different design principles that are used in enterprise network, be it like tier 2 design networks, tier 3 design network, or SOHO topologies, or consider how high availability techniques and redundancy techniques are used, like first hop redundancy protocols, be it HSRP, be it VRRP, and we are also going to see some security parameters like SSO signing. So we'll be looking at architecturing things like that, and we'll also consider how wireless LAN deployment is catered and how does these things are done. So we'll be talking about different wireless LAN deployments, be it centralized, be it distributed, be it controllerless or controller based, or even cloud and remote branch offices. So we'll be talking about these wireless LAN deployments along with on-premise cloud and off-premise cloud deployments as well. So that's what the things would be in the architecture. And as the section goes ahead, we'll be talking about SD-WAN solution, we'll be talking about SD-Access solution, and some of the quality of service components and its policies. Okay, and we'll also see how software switching mechanism works, like Cisco Express Forwarding, or how MAC address table learns the information and stores it into TCAM memory in its hardware called ASIC. Okay, so that's what the content will be in the architecture module, which is going to be very first module, and then we will see how control plane and data plane databases are synchronized with each other, which is forwarding information base controlled by the data plane and routing information base, which is built at control plane of that particular device. So we'll be looking at that particular thing, and then we'll move ahead to the second module, which is virtualization, in which we will talk about various virtualization technologies, be it hypervisor, be it VMware, like virtual machine, and be it virtual switching. And along with that, we will see how VRF and virtualization technologies work, be it like VRF, be it GRE and IPsec tunneling. And along with that, we'll be talking about Lisp and VXLAN, which are again some of the virtualization concepts. Okay, then after that, we'll be looking forward to discuss infrastructure services, be it layer 2 services including .1q trunking protocols, VLANs and VTPs and Ether channels, and how span tree protocol actually works. And then we'll move towards layer 3 infrastructure protocols, be it different routing protocols including EIGRP and OSPF. And then we will dig deeper into how these protocols actually work and check their neighbor adjacency, be it how they communicate. And then after that, we are going to talk about some EGP protocols, exterior gateway routing protocols, in which we'll discuss about BGP. So, however, the content only focuses on eBGP. We'll also talk about iBGP and how the communication actually works by using iBGP, be it neighbor adjacency or be it network advertisement over there. And after that, we'll focus on wireless technologies again and discuss about the layer 1 I would say concepts such as RF power, RSSI, NSR, interference, noise, and various others as well. Okay, and then we will discuss about then access point modes and its antenna types. And along with that, we'll discuss about some of the other wireless technologies over there. And then after that, we'll move towards IP services, in which we'll talk about NTP, network address translation, port address translations, then again some redundancy protocols, and discuss about some multicast protocols such as PIM and IGMP version 2 and version 3. And that's what the third module will be in our ENCOR certification. And then after that, we'll be talking about network assurance, in which we'll see how the monitoring and using all the different protocols including NetFlow and flexible NetFlow and SPAN, RSPAN and ERSPAN and IPSLA service link agreements, and even using some automation protocols like NetConf and RESTConf, and how you can deploy them in order to implement network assurance. And after that, the next module or the second last module that we will be focusing on is security, in which we will focus morely on how we can configure access control list and perform local I would say AAA authentication, authorization and accounting to ensure that the local environment is secure enough and whosoever is getting connected with the network is not harmful to the enterprise network that we have. Then after that, we'll be discussing about ACLs and COOP parameters, which are different policies for controlling the traffic in the enterprise network. And then we will see how REST API security can be ensured by after following to which we'll discuss with wireless security features, be it EAP, web authentication or PSK. And some of the security parameters as well, along with threat defense, endpoint security, next generation firewall, TrustSec, MACsec, and .1x authentication and web authentication and even MAB. So these are going to be the security parameters that we'll be discussing. And at the last, we'll be talking about automation, that how you can use things like Python and things like third-party applications, be it Postman or something else, in order to automate your SD, I would say, enterprise network. And we'll basically also see how you can parse the JSON or XML objects by using Python scripts and fetch out the configuration from the devices, or be it any graphical user interface including DNA Center and vManage of SD-WAN. Okay, and that's how we'll be interpreting with REST API response codes, and we'll fetch out the results into the payload by using DNA Center APIs and RESTconf configuration protocol. So, and some of the concepts will also be introduced to you, that how configuration management protocol works, be it Ansible, Chef and Puppet and even SaltStack. So that's going to be, I would say, the content that we will be focusing on as we will be dealing in ENCOR. Okay, so the content of course will be covered with in-depth theoretical knowledge along with the practical labs as well. So during the class period itself, you will be getting enough time to do the labs, and then we will be covering each and every concept. over there. And once we get done with, I would say, the ENCOR module, then we will move towards the next module, which would be NRC, which is implementing Cisco Enterprise Advanced Routing and Services there. And in this, we'll be talking about layer 2 technologies, and we'll dig deeper. So this is kind of equivalent to the CCNP T-shoot module that you had earlier, but this is like even more improvised version of that. And if you talk about the ENCOR version, this is like CCNP route and CCNP, some part of CCNP switch, and even including like newer technologies as well, be it virtualization, be it automation, or be it something else, even including the wireless technologies, which was not part of the earlier CCNP certifications. So this is how the new line of certification is coming up. And I would say in NRC, that is implementing Cisco Enterprise Advanced Routing and Services, we will be talking about layer 3 technologies and how we can troubleshoot them, be it any routing protocol, or be it any neighbor adjacency, or be it any type of looping or redistribution or any other thing. So we'll be I would say troubleshooting basic IP services. That would be how you can play with administrative distance, how you can play with route maps and routing protocols, how you can play with loop prevention mechanisms, and how you can play with redistribution between that, and troubleshoot all of that, including VRF Lite, policy-based routing, and certain other things. And after doing that, we'll be troubleshooting even more into EIGRP, into OSPF, and into BGP as well. So that's what we'll be covering in layer 3 technologies, and then we'll see how VPN technologies are used. Okay, so we'll be talking about different VPN technologies, including MPLS, including GRE, including IPsec, and including various other like DMVPN options there. So that's what the second module will be focusing on VPN technologies. Then the third module of that will be focusing on infrastructure security, where we'll be deploying and troubleshooting device security using iOS AAA, and we'll be troubleshooting certain other things over there, okay, including control plane policing, including management plane protocols, be it Telnet, SSH, or HTTPS. And after that, we'll be troubleshooting infrastructure services, be it accessing the devices and device management. Then we'll be troubleshooting SNMP and various other protocols that would be mentioned there. So again, everything over here also will be done in the deeper theoretical aspect, and we'll be talking about hands-on lab as well. So that's what the content of our course is going to be, okay. And if we talk about how the labs will be done, then I would say that the labs will be done in a simulated environment, where we will be using a simulation software which will be EVE-NG. Okay, so EVE-NG is going to be the simulation software that we will be using, where we'll be taking like every other lab that we can do and implement it into the real images that are deployed into the production environment. Because Cisco has came up with virtual images for every platform that it has, it can be easily deployed into the simulation software, which is EVE-NG. And the lab setup and lab files and images, everything will be provided to you guys on a very beginning of that session, so that we can ensure that it doesn't take our time for the installation and face difficulties while doing the installation inside the class. So the lab setup and all will be done prior to start of the training, so that to ensure the smoothness of the training over there and nobody faces any problem. So in order to show you how the configuration or how the access of the labs will be given to you, I'll show you a small demo in which we'll kind of configure a small topology in EIGRP, and we'll see how the neighborship is built up and how the communication can be ensured over there. So I'll share my other screen with you, and you can see over there that how the EVE-NG can be used in order to configure different lab scenarios over there. Alright, so here we are looking at our EVE-NG topology that we are going to work with in order to see how the lab access will be provided to you in our upcoming training. And here we are going to do a demo video, I would say a demo version of how the configuration will be done on these three routers that we have: R1, we have R2, and then we have R3. Each router is having a loopback network that is connected with loopback 10 for R1, which is 10.0.0/24. Then we have loopback 20 for R2, that is 20.0.0/24. and we have loopback 30, that is 30.0.0.0/24. And the networks, the routers are interconnected together by using 12.0.0.0 between R1 and R2 and 23.0.0.0/24 between R2 and R3. So we'll go on each and every router first, and then we will try to configure the thing. So I've already started my routers over here. I'll click on the first router, and over here you can see the CLI has been provided to you. So we'll go and say no, that we do not really want to configure the initial configuration dialog, and then we will begin by changing the host name of that particular router. There you go, the router is coming up, and I'll say enable conft and change the host name to R1, right? And then we will configure a loopback interface on that first. We'll say loopback interface loopback 10, and then I would say IP address for that is going to be 10.0.0.1 along with the subnet mask. And then we will configure the fast Ethernet interface that we are using over here, which is FA0/0 with an IP address of 12.0.0.1. So we'll go and say interface FA0/0, and then we'll say no shutdown to turn up that interface and configure the IP address 12.0.0.0.1 along with the subnet mask, like that. So that's the interface configuration that we need to do, and we can verify the same configuration by looking at the IP interface brief table, which will give us the list of all the interface that we have and the status along with the IP configuration. So you can see FA0/0 is here, and loopback 10 is also there with their IP configurations, and the status for both of them are up and up. Just like that, we'll go ahead and configure our second router by getting the console of that. So I'll place this router over here, R1, and this is our R2. I'll say no there. And it will just come up in a couple of seconds. There you go. So you can go and say enable conft hostname change to R2 and configure a loopback interface there by saying interface loopback 20 and configure an IP address of 20.0.0.1 along with 255.255.250. The log just keeps coming up. You can continue typing your configuration if they prompt in the middle of as well. Then after that, we are going to configure an interface that's FA0/0, which is again connected to R1. So we are going to configure an IP address of 12.0.0.1 on FA0/0, 12.0.0.2, pardon for that. And then we are going to configure FA0/1 with 23.0.0.1, which is facing to R3. So we're going to go there, and then we'll say IP address 12.0.0.2, and then configure a mask here and say no shutdown. Then we're going to configure the second interface, which is going to be interface FA1/0, or the second interface in our topology is going to be FA0/1, which is facing towards R3. So we'll go and say interface FA0/1 and configure an IP address with 23.0.0.1 along with the subnet mask of that. And that's all. That's all the configuration that we will be doing. And we can verify the IP interface brief table to see all the IPs are configured. There you go. We're good. And then you can see that interface FA0/1, however, is administratively down because we didn't apply the no shutdown command here. So we are already inside that interface, and we'll just say no shutdown. And the interface should just come up, and we can verify the same again by running do show IP interface brief command. And there you go. It's all up and up. Then after that, we'll go to our last router and configure the IP parameters. We'll just go there and say no, that we do not really want to go ahead with the initial configuration dialog. And once it comes up, we'll move on configuring the host name and the IP parameters. And there you go. We go ahead and say enable conft host name R3, and then configure a loopback interface there, which is 30 along with the IP address config, which is 30.0.0.1 along with the subnet mask. And then we go into the interface, which is FA0/1. You can see that in the topology as well, which is facing towards R2. So that's the interface that we're going to go on and configure an IP address of 23.0.0.2 along with the subnet mask. And then we're going to say no shutdown here, and the interface will just be up. And you can verify that by saying do show IP interface brief, and there you go, the configuration just looks fine. But if we try to make R1 communicate with R3, like for example, if I say do ping, as I'm on R1, I can say ping 30.0.0.1, and the ping will not reach out there because the R1 doesn't really knows about R2 or R3's routes, and that's why we'll be implementing EIGRP routing, in which as a part of the advanced distance vector routing, they'll exchange the directly connected routes with the other ones, about which we'll be discussing in brief in our training session. But now I'm just going to show you a demo that how this magic will come in action. So I'll just go on my R1 and initiate a configuration for router EIGRP AS number 100, and then I'm gonna just go and advertise my networks, and two of my networks are on R1 are 12.0.0.0 and 10.0.0.0, and just like that, that's all I gotta do. However, there are so many other things that you can do in order to influence the routing, that EIGRP, but we're just gonna do the normal configuration. So just like that, I'm gonna configure the R2 as well with the networks that I have by implementing router EIGRP AS number 100 and saying network 12.0.0.0, then network, you can see there's an EIGRP neighborship that has came up. Then I'm gonna implement the network advertisement for 23 and the network advertisement for 20 as well, and that's all that we're gonna do on this router. Then we will go on to the third router and configure the same thing by looking at the number of routes that we have. We have 23 and 30. So I'll say router EIGRP 100 and say network 30.0.0.0 and network 23.0.0.0, and a neighborship should also come up there. So once we do this, it says duplicate address on 23.0.0.2 on FA0/1. That might be something of concern. And if we look at the first router, do show, or I would say show IP interface brief. Yeah, the mistake that we did is we configured 23.0.0.2 on R2 and 23.0.0.2 on R3 as well. So we got to change that address on R2 by going into conft and saying interface FA0/1 and saying IP address 23.0.0.1 by changing it to the desired IP address, and then the neighborship should just come up. There you go, the neighborship adjacency. And now if I check my routing table even on R1 by saying do show IP route, my route should know about, or my routing table should be updated about all the routes that are there. And now if I try to ping 30.0.0.1, that is on R3 from R1, my ping request just goes there. You can see how this communicates with that. So that's what routing information, and that's how routing information between the EIGRP works. And this is how a simulation environment looks like, and that's how we are going to practice each and every concept in our training. That was all I would love to share in this demo session. So thank you so much for watching this demo, and I'm looking forward to have you guys on board in the training. See you there. Thank you so much. Take care of yourself, be safe, take care of your family, and goodbye.